What's going on? Appreciate y'all watching my videos. What's going on? What's going on? Hold on. Hold on for a second. Gotta make sure my live working before I get started. Okay. Make sure my live working. Okay, my live working. I think it's working. I think it's working. Oh man, I had to look myself up on YouTube just to make sure my live working. But yeah, so this video is um I wanted to show y'all how easy it is to learn how to invest. Okay, either be for your retirement or you trying to just have savings for a rainy day, or it don't matter what it is, but you just want to learn how to invest. Okay, so with all this technology we have today here in 2025, it's really no reason for you to be ignorant when it comes to investing. So I'm gonna use chat, and I'm gonna use AI to help me to figure out. I'm gonna play it as if I don't know anything about investing, and I'm just gonna right here on my live walk y'all through on using tools on learning how to invest. Because if you're not investing, learning how to invest, or if you're not investing here in 2025, I don't know what you're doing. With all this technology we got today, I mean, you can invest. I mean, you just gotta get familiar with the information. So it's just gonna take some time. So I'm gonna pull up chat GPT, and I'm gonna ask chat some questions about investing. Hello, chat.
Hey there, how's it going?
Um, I want to learn how to invest for retirement, and can you walk me through on some techniques that I can use if I have a job making $75,000 a year, and I'm 40 years old and I want to retire at the age of 60. I want to ensure that I have enough retirement income at the age of 60. Hold on, is thinking. Hello, are you there? Hold on, it's thinking. See, look. Hold on, y'all. It's thinking. Usually it don't take this long, but I think I need to refresh it. Hold on, y'all. Hello, are you there? Okay, let me do it again.
Hope you're doing well. What's on your mind today?
Hi. Um, I'm 40 years old and I want to retire at the age of 60. I have a job that pays $75,000 a year, and I want to ensure that I have appropriate amount of income at the age of 60. What are some techniques or things that I can do to prepare for retirement to ensure I have enough income?
Absolutely. There are a few key strategies you can consider. First, contributing to retirement accounts like a 401k or an IRA can help a lot, especially if you can take advantage of employer matching. Also, you could look into investing in low cost index funds or other diversified portfolios. And of course, it helps to factor in things like inflation, cost of living, and any additional sources of income. If you want, we can dive deeper into any of those areas.
Okay, sure. Like I said, I make $75,000 a year, and the company that I work for has a 401k plan. So, like, what do I need to do?
Great. With the 401k, you can start by contributing at least enough to get the full employer match, since that's basically free money. Generally, that might be around 3 to 5% of your salary, but it depends on your employer's policy. Beyond that, you can contribute more up to the annual limit set by the IRS. Also, consider diversifying with an IRA or even a Roth IRA, depending on your income and eligibility. And it's always good to periodically review your investment choices and increase contributions as you can. Let me know if
Okay.
you want.
Okay.
If you have any specific questions or need help with calculations or projections, just let me know. I'm here to help you map out a plan that works best for you.
Okay. Yeah. If you could do that, like I said, I make $75,000 a year, and I get paid every 2 weeks. So, like, what amount do I need to be putting away to retire at the age of 60? Like I said, I'm 40 years old now, and so I want to retire at 60 with probably at least 3,500 to $4,500 a month in income. What do I need to do?
Got it. So to figure out how much you need to save, we can start by estimating how much you'll need in total by the time you retire. For example, if you want $4,000 a month, that's about $48,000 a year. If we assume a retirement period of about 25 years, that's around $1.2 million in total. Of course, that's just a rough estimate and doesn't account for investment growth or inflation. To reach that goal, we can look at how much you need to save each year and how your investments might grow. Typically, aiming to save around 15 to 20% of your annual income can be a good target, but we can fine tune the numbers based on expected returns and your specific goals. Let me know if you'd like to dive into those calculations.
Okay, yeah. So let's dive into those calculations. So, if I save 15% of my check every 2 weeks, like how much? Like what would I be looking at? Um,
Absolutely. So if you make $75,000 a year, that breaks down to about $2,884 per biweekly paycheck before taxes. If you save 15% of that, that would be roughly $432 per paycheck. Over the course of the year, that's about $11,200 saved annually. Of course, that doesn't factor in any investment returns. If we assume an average annual return of, say, 7%, we can see how that amount would grow over the next 20 years. We can run those numbers to get a clear picture if you'd like.
right. Can you run those numbers? Like I want to get an idea.
Absolutely. So let's do a quick calculation. If you save about $11,200 annually and we assume a 7% annual return on your investments, we can use a future value formula for an annuity. Over 20 years, if you contribute about $11,200 each year and it grows at 7% annually, you'd end up with roughly around $500,000 to $550,000 by the time you're 60, assuming consistent returns. This is a ballpark figure, of course, and it can vary based on market conditions and any changes in contributions, but that should give you a solid starting point. Let me know if you want to tweak any of the assumptions.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so um, you know, assuming that I would probably get pay increases over that period of time. So can you run those same numbers but factor in maybe 1 to 2% pay increases over, I guess I'm 40 right now to age 60.
Got it. So let's factor in a 2% annual pay increase, which means each year your salary will grow by about 2%. That means your contribution amount will also increase over time. For
Right.
example, starting at $75,000 and growing 2% each year, by the time you're 60, your salary will be significantly higher. That means your contributions will grow as well. When we run the numbers, we'll see a higher total saved amount because of both the increased contributions and the compounding growth. I'll do a quick calculation with that 2% annual increase, and we'll see how much you could potentially have by the time you retire.
Okay. Yeah, can you run those calculations for me?
Absolutely. So let's break it down step by step. One, initial salary, $75,000 per year. Two, annual increase, 2% each year. Contribution rate, 15% of the salary each year. For annual returns, 7% on investments. We'll calculate the contributions and growth each year for 20 years. By the end of the 20 years, factoring in the annual pay increases and the investment growth, you'd likely end up with somewhere around 700,000 to 800,000. The exact number can vary depending on how the returns compound and the exact salary growth each year, but that gives you a solid estimate.
Okay.
If
That's that's pretty good. So say if I get promoted in that time period. So right now I make 75,000, but say I get promoted to a senior position, maybe assistant manager or manager, and I start to make $100,000 a year. And can you run this same scenario, but factor in 2% pay increases based on that information?
Perfect. So let's adjust the scenario to reflect that promotion. We'll assume that at some point you move from the $75,000 salary to $100,000 and then continue with that 2% annual increase afterward. We can break it down in phases. First term age 40 to the point of promotion, for example, maybe at age 45, and then from age 45 to 60, and with the higher salary. This way we'll get a more accurate picture of how the increased salary and the consistent raises will impact your total savings. I'll run those calculations and give you a detailed estimate.
Okay, yeah, can you run that?
Absolutely. Let's break it down step by step. So years 1 through 5, ages 40 to 44, starting at $75,000 and increasing 2% each year, and contributing 15% of that salary. 2 years 6 through 20, ages 45 to 60, after the promotion to $100,000 at age 45, we'll continue with the 2% annual increase and keep contributing 15% of that increased salary. We'll then calculate the contributions and the investment growth each year. After running the numbers, we'll get a comprehensive total that reflects both the initial salary period and the increased salary period. I'll put all that together and give you a detailed estimate.
Right. Yeah, can you run a detailed estimate for me?
Of course, here's a detailed breakdown. So first years 1 through 5, ages 40 to 44, starting salary $75,000, annual increase 2% each year, contribution 15% of salary each year, around 11,250 in the first year, and increasing slightly each year. Years 6 through 20, ages 45 to 60, salary at age 45, $100,000, annual increase 2% each year from that point forward, contributions 15% of the increased salary each year. We'll assume the 7% annual return on investments for the entire period. After running the numbers, the total savings by age 60 would likely be around 1.2 million to 1.3 million, depending on the exact timing of the promotion and the compounding effect. I'll put it all together and give you a detailed estimate.
Okay, so like I'm kind of confused. Okay, so how do, like, if I'm putting in $300-400 every 2 weeks, like, how does $300-400 every 2 weeks end up to be like $1 million? Like, can you explain that?
Absolutely. It can definitely seem a bit surprising. The key factor is the power of compounding growth over a long period of time. Even though your contributions might seem modest on a biweekly basis, that money gets invested and grows over time. For example, if you're contributing around $400 every 2 weeks, that adds up to about $10,400 per year. Over 20 years, you're putting in around $200,000 in contributions, but the magic happens with the 7% annual return. That means your investments grow each year and the returns themselves start generating more returns. So after 20 years, that initial $200,000 in contributions can grow to over $1 million because of that compounding effect. It's really the combination of consistent contributions and long-term growth that makes that big difference.
So, okay, so what part of that estimate, you said it was like 1.2 million or something like that? So what part of that estimate is my own money that I put in, and what part of it is like growth and investing?
Great question. So let's break it down a bit. If we consider the total amount of your own contributions over the 20 years, that's roughly around $200,000 to $250,000, depending on the exact salary progression and increases. Now, the remainder of the total would be about $1 million or so is the growth from investment returns. This growth happens because of the compounding effect over the years. Essentially, your contributions act as the foundation, and then the returns on those investments are what really amplify the total amount. So in summary, your own contributions make up roughly 15 to 20% of the final total, and the rest is the result of those consistent returns over time. It's pretty amazing how that compounding works.
Okay, that's really interesting. So
Abs-
when
Do you
I
have any?
yeah, I got some more questions. So when I retire, right? I'm retired. Just, if I'm 60 years old and I'm retired and I got $1.2 million in my account, how would I go about, like, using the million as income? Because I don't want to spend all the money, but I just want to use the $1.2 million to live off of. What are some techniques that I can use to live off the money?
Absolutely. That's a great question. One popular approach is the 4% rule, where you withdraw about 4% of your retirement savings each year. For a $1.2 million portfolio, that would be around $40,000 per year, which can provide a steady income while preserving the principal. Another method is to create a diversified withdrawal strategy where you balance withdrawals from different accounts, like a taxable brokerage account, a Roth IRA, and traditional retirement accounts. This can help you manage taxes and keep your income steady. You can also consider annuities, which can provide a guaranteed income stream for life, though it's important to understand the fees and terms. And of course, it's always good to keep an eye on your spending and adjust your withdrawals based on market conditions and your lifestyle needs. It's definitely a balance, and I'm happy to dive into any of those strategies more deeply.
Okay. So what are some good, strong, solid funds that I can invest in? And what are their return rates?
Great question. Some solid options often include low-cost index funds and diversified mutual funds. For example, the S&P 500 index fund is a popular choice. Historically, it's returned around 7 to 10% annually over the long term. There are also total market index funds like the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, which gives you exposure to a broad range of U.S. companies and has similar historical returns. You could also consider bond funds, which tend to be more stable, though with lower returns, generally around 2 to 4% annually. And if you're looking for a bit more growth and you are comfortable with some risk, you can explore international index funds or sector-specific funds like technology or healthcare. Each fund's return can vary year to year, but historically these have been solid long-term performers. If you want, we can definitely dive into specific funds or strategies that fit your goals.
Okay. So, like, can you tell me, like, what are some strategies or techniques to balance the account? Like, so, because I don't want to work again and I want to live 100% off my investment portfolio.
Absolutely, that makes sense. A few strategies can help you maintain that balance and ensure that your portfolio supports your lifestyle long term. First, diversification is key. Having a mix of asset classes like stocks, bonds, and real estate can help reduce risk and provide steady returns. Second, a withdrawal strategy is important. The 4% rule is a good starting point, but you can adjust based on market performance. For instance, in down years, you might withdraw a bit less to preserve your capital. Third, consider a bucket strategy. This involves dividing your investments into different buckets based on when you'll need the funds. For example, short-term needs can be covered by more conservative investments like bonds, while long-term funds can be in stocks or growth-oriented funds. Fourth, keep an eye on taxes using tax advantage accounts and strategically withdrawing from different accounts can help minimize taxes and maximize what you keep. Finally, it's always good to periodically review your plan and adjust as needed based on market conditions and your lifestyle. Having a financial advisor can also help keep everything on track. If you want to explore any of these in more detail, just let me know.
Okay. So, can you, like, what about dividend funds? Are those better? Because there's information out there that dividend funds can provide consistent income also.
Absolutely. Dividend funds can be a great option, especially if you're looking for consistent income during retirement. Dividend paying stocks or funds typically distribute a portion of their earnings to their holders regularly, which can provide a steady stream of income. One advantage is that dividend funds can help reduce volatility because even in market downturns, the dividends can provide some level of income. Also, reinvesting dividends can help compound your growth over time. Some popular dividend funds include ones like the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF or the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. These funds focus on companies with a strong history of paying dividends and often have a solid track record of growth. Of course, it's important to balance dividend funds with other investments to keep your portfolio diversified and to manage risk, but they can definitely be a valuable part of your retirement income strategy. Let me know if you want to dive deeper into any specific funds or strategies.
Right. So, okay. So, can you like run a comparison about what we've been talking about? Like I said, right now I make 75,000, but you know, I know eventually I'm gonna get pay increases, promotions, and stuff like that. Can you run a comparison scenario where one side is dividend investing and then the other side is investing in a S&P 500 index or something like that? Can you compare the two and give me an idea like which type of strategy is better?
Absolutely. I can definitely compare the two approaches for you. One, S&P 500 index investing. Historically, the S&P 500 has returned about 7 to 10% annually over the long term. This can lead to significant growth over time, especially with compounding income. The S&P 500 typically pays lower dividends, averaging around 1.5 to 2% yield. The focus is more on capital appreciation. Dividend investing, growth potential. Dividend funds generally have a more stable but potentially lower growth rate, often around 5 to 7% annually, including both price appreciation and dividends. Income dividend funds can provide a higher income stream, often 3 to 5% or more in annual dividends, which can be appealing for steady cash flow. Comparison example, let's say you invest $100,000 in each approach over 20 years, assuming an average annual return of 8% for the S&P 500, your investment could grow to roughly $466,000. Meanwhile, a dividend-focused portfolio with a slightly lower growth rate but higher income could yield around $400,000 to $450,000 plus the additional income you'd receive along the way. Which is better if you prioritize income? Dividend investing can provide more immediate cash flow, making it appealing if you need regular income. If you prioritize growth, the S&P 500 might offer higher long-term growth potential, although with potentially more volatility. In the end, it often comes down to your personal goals, risk tolerance, and income needs, but I'm happy to dive deeper into any specifics if you want.
Okay, so like I said, at 60, if I have 1.2 million, which strategy would be better? Should I invest it in index fund or should I invest it in the S&P 500?
It really depends on your goals and your preference for income versus growth. If you prefer a steady income and want to minimize volatility, dividend-focused funds might be more appealing. They provide regular payouts, which can be reinvested or used for living expenses. This approach can give you a more predictable cash flow in retirement. On the other hand, if you're more focused on long-term growth and are comfortable with some market fluctuations, the S&P 500 can potentially offer higher overall returns over the long run. The strategy is more growth oriented, so it might be better if you don't need, immediate income and can let your investments grow. Many people also choose a balanced approach, combining both strategies. For instance, you could have a portion of your portfolio in dividend funds for steady income and another portion in index funds for growth. Ultimately, it's about balancing your income needs, risk tolerance, and long-term goals. If you'd like, we can create a more detailed scenario to see how each strategy would play out based on your specific needs. Let me know.
Right, yeah, let's do that. So like I said, I have 1.2 million. Just say if for example, if I had 1.2 million, can you run a scenario?
Absolutely. Let's run a scenario comparing the two strategies with a $1.2 million portfolio at retirement. Scenario setup: S&P 500 strategy, initial investment $1.2 million, expected annual return about 8% historically over the long term. Withdrawals, let's assume a 4% withdrawal rate, which would be about $48,000 per year. Dividend strategy, initial investment $1.2 million, expected dividend yield, let's assume about 4% annually in dividends. So that would provide about $48,000 per year in income. So long-term growth comparison, S&P 500, over time, the portfolio could grow at around 8% annually after 10 years, for instance. With $48,000 withdrawn each year, the portfolio could still grow to roughly 1.3 million or more because the growth outpaces the withdrawals. Dividend strategy, with a 4% yield, you get a steady $48,000 per year, and the principal would grow at a slower rate. After 10 years, the portfolio might grow to around $1.5 million, assuming a modest growth on the remaining principal. Conclusion: if your priority is to have a steady income with less concern about growth, the dividend strategy might be better. You'll have a predictable income stream, and the principal will grow slowly. If you want more growth potential and can handle some fluctuations, the S&P 500 might offer higher long-term growth, and you can still withdraw a sustainable amount each year. In practice, many retirees blend both approaches to get the benefits of income and growth. We can definitely fine-tune these assumptions further based on your exact preferences. Let me know if you'd like to dig deeper.
That's good for now. I'll probably ask you some more questions later, but that's good for now.
Sounds great. I'm glad we could. If you have any more questions down the line, just let me know. I'm always here to help. In the meantime, best of luck with your planning, and I'm looking forward to chatting again whenever you need.
Right. Thank you. All right. So we had a whole conversation with Chat GPT about investing. I just gave a fictitious scenario. Somebody who makes about $75,000 a year at a job somewhere, which is your typical person that has a job, and eventually they, in my career, my working career, I've moved up, and so that is your basic situation where somebody who has a job making 60, 70,000 a year, they won't be making that for the rest of their life, but you can expect at least, if you make it 75, to get up to like 100, 110 in your career. And if you keep investing, one day you eventually hit $1 million, according to the conversation we had with our AI friend here. So, with the information, with the tools and the information we have available today, there is absolutely no reason that you should be walking around here ignorant. You should be walking around here with no idea what's going on. You don't have to. You don't have to know nobody. You got it right here. You can just go on chat and just ask. You can just go right on there and just ask. Like, whatever the question you got. How to do this, how to do that, how to get a job. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought I'd just come on here and share that with y'all, because I bump into a lot of people out here that have no idea. I, like I said, I got this new job. I've been working in the federal government for about 3 years now, and I bump into people in the office, and some people, they retiring, preparing for retirement, they got deduction. But then I bump into like a few other people, and they're not doing nothing. And like, I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing with your life? Like, I'm not saying you got to put 50% of your check in there, because if you make $2,000 every 2 weeks, you bringing home $2,000 every 2 weeks, you should be able to save at least $100 to $200. And we just ran through a scenario right here. We just ran through it straight, had a whole conversation with Chat AI tool. Had a whole conversation talking about, and y'all seen the way that I spoke to him. I just organic questions. I was just like it's a human being. It's real spooky if you ask me. I don't know. I'm just telling you, it's real spooky. We just sat up here and had a whole consultation, investing consultation, with a doggone, with a doggone. We had a whole consultation with a virtual intelligence, man. It's like, man, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the thing is, man, there's really no reason for y'all not to have just at least a basic S&P 500. I mean, if y'all want to, I'll make another video, and we can just be like, okay, we can talk about how do I go about getting the S&P 500. I mean, I was trying to, but you have to really talk directly to the AI and tell it exactly what you're looking for. It's not going to assume that you want to know things. It's only going to give you what you ask it. So you have to ask it directly and say, "Hey, I need this. Can you calculate this? Can you explain to me the best retirement accounts, whatever." You know what I mean? You have to ask it directly. But 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 the point is that it's really no reason you need to be walking around here and you don't. I mean, at this point, at this point, everybody should have at least a basic retirement account. It's just like breathing, because the information is so available right now. You know, you ain't really got to do nothing. I mean, I could probably ask this thing to open the account for me. I'm sure I can. I'm sure I can just be like, "Hey, can you open up a Charles Schwab account? Here's my social security number," and like it'll go through the Schwab account, open up the account, and set up your password, log in, and all that, and set the account up for you. I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would. That's where we at, man. It's real spooky, but y'all could do this, man. It's just too much information. I can sit here and chat with that thing all day long. There's really no reason for it. Snyder Low board can use some help. What they doing to the Snyder choice board, man? When I was on the choice board, it didn't. It was really in the new stages, and when I left, they was just adding like all these restrictions and features to it. But I can't imagine what the hell going on. Is it a free check? Yeah, it's the free version. And that's what makes it so crazy. It's the free version. I know if I get the paid version, I could have got more out of it and have a more detailed analysis, deep dive, and all that stuff. But I mean, that's enough for me, to be honest. I take the free version. No more 65%. It's all in revenue. I don't get what you're saying. When I was on the choice board, whatever the rate is on the choice board, that's what you get paid. The 65%, the money, the Snyder's part already been taken out. You gotta understand, Snyder is a major carrier, and so Snyder, JB Hunt, Swift, they get them loads for $4 a mile. They have multi-year contracts with these big companies, and they go direct to Walmart or to the manufacturer and get them rates $3, $4, $5 a mile. And so you getting 65% of what the gross rate is. And so it's always been like that. You got to understand that the company is already putting up all the risk already. You just a glorified employee, so you shouldn't be getting all the money. They should be getting some of the money. They should, because that's their customer. You didn't sign no contract. You don't have your own authority. That's not your freight. That's not your customer. You just a contractor, glorified employee. But I don't want to get into that. But I thought I'd just make this video. I thought it was real funny. I thought it was real funny, man. There's no reason that y'all walking around here and not having no retirement. I'm just telling you. You get to 60 years old and don't have no retirement, it's all on you. Because there's too much technology and information out here. It's just too much. It's just too much. But anyway, I appreciate y'all watching my videos, man. I'll see y'all next time.